This is the story of a dream, of the years which a group of Australian yachtsmen spent trying to make that dream come true. It has taken 2 dedicated years to build and test this craft. Now it is about to be pushed into uncharted areas of design and stress, in search of the ultimate speed under sail. On this shallow lake in New South Wales between August and September, the offshore winds can reach 40 knots and more. The men in this boat will make on this lake their final assault on the world sailing speed record. And when they've done that, they'll put out to sea to try to beat an even tougher record for the distance sailed in 24 hours set by a clipper ship called Champion of the Seas in 1854. The story began years ago and half a world away. In 1976, the British set a new world open-class sailing speed record with this boat called Crossbow 2. It was the state of the art, the fastest sailing boat on Earth. With her twin knife-edged hulls and revolutionary sails, she covered a half-kilometre course at 27 knots, and everyone wanted to beat her. The Americans tried. With their huge resources, they built this extraordinary craft called Slingshot, steered from a tiny flying outrigger. But Slingshot failed, and the British kept their record. It was the Australians' turn. Australian yachting is not the exclusive province of millionaires, but it has its share. The big cities are dotted with yacht clubs, big and small, and the Royal Prince Alfred Yacht Club at Newport, an hour's drive north of Sydney Harbour, is one of the biggest. They come here to sail and to talk about the next great race. So some of them started talking about Crossbow and its record. And there was that other sailing record too, the 24-hour distance record, 465 miles, set in 1854. So a group came together. Its driving force was a blue water sailor and professional boat builder, Geoffrey Baker.
Well, the idea that I've got about this is to build a big multi-hull and wait for a westerly.
Jeff Baker's dream is to build a boat which can take out both records.
Seem to blow forever.
But can it be done?
See if we can sail up the coast in this multi-hull and break the old clipper ship record. I was thinking of a trimaran, Peter. What have you got any thoughts about size or what sort of a multi-hull?
A noted designer, Professor Peter Joubert, thinks it can.
I think I'd prefer a catamaran in many ways. Structurally, it's a lot better. And I think if we can fly a hull, well, then you have the same concept as the trimaran without the drag of that.
Peter Joubert, who's Professor of Mechanical Engineering at Melbourne University, will design the Australian Challenger. If anyone knows how, it's probably him. He's sailed in many of the big ocean races, usually in boats of his own design. And he has long experience of the aerodynamics and hydrodynamics of fast boats.
I think the thing to do is to get Peter's ideas on what we really want and then sit down and cost it out and see how we're going to build it. Do you think it'd be a round bilge construction or...?
No, it'll be a chine boat.
Chine.
So we can build it in plywood.
Hard chine plywood.
I think the plywood construction is the most efficient. It'll be the lightest and the strongest. We may cover it on the inside and the outside in the highly stressed areas with a layer of fiberglass.
How fast do you think we go, Peter?
Oh, we should be able to reach 40 knots.
What? Great.
At this stage we'd be flying a hull and
Yes, we'll be flying a hull.
You'll give us a mast and a boom then, Warren, will you?
Yeah.
The team that will build the new boat is already assembled.
Work on the rigging.
Warren Anderson, the leading mast and spar maker.
Yes, we won't be able to actually do the fabrication in the factory because it really needs to be done down on the boat, but we can supply all the gear and so forth.
Well, I guess I can do the sails.
Peter Anthill, sail designer and consultant to North's, a famous firm of sailmakers.
The main and jib.
What's the name of your firm, Peter?
Hood, isn't it? Hood?
No, my contribution would be to help build the hulls.
Dennis Hayward will help build it.
Once you build one hull,
He's been a shipwright for 25 years.
Hopefully it's the same length.
Looks like I might be an apprentice to Dennis here and Jeff to put this monster together.
The other builder, Lloyd Northam,
Sure about this
has
timber. I'd
worked
like to
with
see
team
some
leader
part of
Jeff Baker.
Peter says timber. My contribution will be to help.
And
Jeff
Martin Lewis,
Dennis
a
and
shipwright
Lloyd
with
build
experience
the
not
hull
only in sailing boats, but motorboats as well.
Put the whole thing together.
The problem is that none of these men is a millionaire. They'll have to find other people's money. But before you ask businessmen to invest thousands of dollars, you have to have something to show them. And they still had nothing but an idea. So Jeff Baker asked a friend of his, David Marshall, to paint a picture of that idea.
There was nothing more than just a sketch plan, which most of it was still in the imagination, because there was nothing more than a little side view linear sketch like that, which just showed a very basic hull shape. And then there was a plan view, which showed the width of these enormous 70-foot hulls, and a weird crisscross selection of braces and booms and bits of wire and so on. And then there was a front view. But the interesting thing about the hulls was not the fact that there were just two of them, but it was the section of the hulls, because what Peter Joubert had done was to design not just the normal rounded hull shape that you get underneath a catamaran, but a sort of deep, a flat V shape that you most often find on motorboats. And the idea of this thing was it was going to plane like mad. It was going to go screaming along the water, and then it has this, and you'll see that the painting I eventually did was from the three-quarter view of the back, from the quarter, and it had to show this V, because Jeff was very interested in showing that, because no one at that time knew anything about this boat. I don't know whether Jeffrey knew really much about what it was going to look like. So I had to set to overnight and draw this, which I wasn't terribly proud of, as a matter of fact, because, you know, one likes to do a few rough, but this is what I did, and it's an exaggerated, emotional view of what the thing was going to be about, really. In fact, the final craft turned out to be red and not white, but basically it had the character of this enormously broad catamaran, 70 feet long, and the idea was that there we were screaming along off outside the heads, and there was Jeffrey and the boys 15 feet up in the air, up on the windward hull, because of course the idea was to have a minimum amount in the water, tracking along like mad.
Hawking their painting from sponsor to sponsor, they raise enough money to begin. Finally, in Jeff Baker's boat-building factory, the masses of wood and fiberglass assume the shape of twin, elegant hulls. So the finished boat will have no metal fastenings, and the 1,600 joints in each hull will be glued. The stringers and frames are laminated spruce, each of them shaped by hand to Peter Joubert's design. The final touches to the quarter-inch ply hulls include some radical features. The boat's expected to have a tendency to nosedive when it's sailing fast. So there's a wedge along the bow to stop that happening. That's the theory. And Jeff Baker admits that's all most of it is.
Catamaran in general go at very high speeds. I can't say that I know whether the planing type hulls have gone anything significantly faster than a conventional type hulls, but we'll find out.
So at this stage you don't really know whether this boat has got a chance of reaching the speed that you hope it will to
oh no,
make that.
No, we don't know.
It's a gamble.
Very much so. We're hoping. we put in a lot of work into finding out, but we're not sure. If we knew, we wouldn't be doing it, I guess.
They are building a craft for which there are few accepted guidelines. There are no textbooks on what these men are doing, no safe treatise by a naval architect who's seen it all before. They're at the cutting edge of sailing boat design. What they're making now must be more inspired, more accomplished than anything the rest of the world has been able to do. They call her the Big Bandicoot, a craft which will weigh almost 2 tons, but which, by an apparent miracle of physics, will cut through the water more than twice as fast as the wind that pushes her. To do that, she'll have to sail across the wind and lift one of her 17-metre hulls into the air. The forces exerted on every part of this boat will be exceptional. Although they've been concerned mainly with reducing the boat's weight, they've decided to strengthen the hulls. So a layer of fiberglass has been laid on the inside and outside of the keel sections, and they're ready for the water. Launching day is the last day of March 1978. Tomorrow will be April Fool's Day. That was one launch date they didn't want. On the beach of Pittwater, north of Sydney Harbour, the major parts of the Big Bandicoot are assembled. A race against the rising tide which will float her. Most of the stresses exerted on this craft will have their fulcrum in the network of welded aluminium crossbars which join the 2 hulls together and which support the single mast.
Come aft again.
Peter Joubert has lightened his original design for this section of the boat. He believed the extra weight would have cost too much in performance.
Pretty good judgment. Just rest it, everybody rest. Rest it on the deck.
The mast, too, is ultralight, about the size used for a normal half-ton racing yacht, applied here to a craft far bigger. Warren Anderson's rigging is also experimental and untried.
It's got a lot more rigging on it than a normal catamaran. It's a similar type of thing, but there's nothing really like it, and we just see how it goes when it goes, you know. It's a section we use on the half-ton boats, on the older style half-ton boats, which are about 37 feet high. So it's about twice as... And a half-ton boat was about 30 feet long. So it'll give you an idea of the difference in mass, you know.
Okay, let's have a trial here. 1, 2, 3.
A couple of feet off the ground.
The modern ocean racers are using very light masts with a lot of rigging on them like this. If you gradually work them up and keep them straight, you can carry a tremendous amount of sail.
Going over, fellas, to about where I am at the masthead.
We don't know really how much compression the boat's going to put on the mast because nobody's ever made one before. We hope that when it accelerates, it just unloads the mast. And if that happens, then it should be okay, you know. But it's certainly the lightest mast you could possibly make for the boat.
Despite the effort taken to construct and direct this 20-metre mast, it will never carry sail. Within weeks of its installation, it will be replaced by one slightly bigger and stronger. Another slight compromise of weight in favour of strength. The new one will be the sort you'd normally see on a 3/4 ton boat.
Everybody ready?
As the tide rises, it's a race to finish assembling the boat.
Going up. What's that? That's the halyard to go to the rear, isn't it? Yeah. Well, that's got to go around that side of the mast when you go.
Through there, Lloyd, you get a better leverage.
8 years later, Lloyd Northam recalls how an entire community, sailors, friends and neighbours, turned out to help and to turn the launch into a celebration.
Jeff had organised, or friends of Jeff had organised friends of friends of friends, and there were friends of the ABC there, and just people everywhere, which was handy because it took all those people to assemble it in the time. It was a man against the tide sort of thing, and it all went remarkably smoothly, I thought. The ladies came along, complete with champagne bottles. Whack, over the bow they went. Upset Jeff a little bit when they tried to, the bottles didn't break, which is normal at launching, the bottles don't break. The girls were determined to break them. The whole deal sort of rolled along fairly smoothly, and when he said he was going to launch a little tide mark down there and put it together, I said, oh well, you know, he's done it all before. I was a bit apprehensive, but it all worked properly.
Although the boat is in the water and the first mast in place, much is still missing. The boom will be just over 7 metres long and will carry standard fittings to cope with stretching in the sailcloth or additional support. The Bandicoot's mainsail is huge, more than 1,200 square feet or 133 square metres. It will capture and generate massive forces of wind. For answers to these problems, the sailmaker, Peter Antle, looks to what has been done with ice boats.
10 battens in the sail, like this. The top ones are a little smaller in dimension. We're using a wooden base batten with carbon fibre over the outside to try and stiffen it up. In the top we'll use fiberglass battens, the top 3 battens. But they're very prone to breakage and not very satisfactory what we've got today. But we're really not quite sure what sort of pressures we're going to get. It's all sort of experimental, really. I'm pretty sure it'll be the biggest 2-ply sail made in Australia to date out of this sort of material. We've sort of pioneered a lot in 12 metres and other boats like that. And now we're applying it to this sort of boat. We sort of looked at a lot of what they're doing in ice boats in America, which are doing speeds greater than this boat will do, but the same sort of proportions. And we, through the North Sails computer tie-up, we've had a shape designed. Computer actually, we gave it the dimensions of the sail, the proportions we were looking at, the speeds we were looking at. And it went and designed the camber distribution and the broad seaming that we'd need to come up with the shape we wanted. And then laid it all out and we manufactured it off that. It's one of the first computer design sails Norths have done. So it's largely experimental, but we feel we're on the right track with it.
The twin rudders are made from heavily reinforced aluminium. Because the big Bandicoot will sail at speed with only one hull in the water, the rudders must be really big.
I think it's monstrous.
Now, for the first time, Peter Joubert sees his design complete and afloat.
Floating reasonably well.
It's a bit of a shock.
Yeah.
Well, we've got a couple of outboards in the stern too. We've got a set of keys inside, haven't we?
He admits later that the Bandicoot is bigger than even he had visualised. But he's impressed by its sheer size and by the excellence of its builder's work.
It's always a great worry for a designer. You try and make it as light as possible so that you get the best speed out of the boat, but then you don't know if you've made it strong enough. So I think we'll have to sail it and find out.
This is the time for reassessment, to change ideas which haven't stood the test of reality. Already Warren Anderson has replaced the mast. The 2-ply mainsail, he believed, was too heavy for the original. Joubert has to accept his mastmaker's advice, but he's concerned about the weight. Joubert specifies changes to the rigging, and some fittings are reinforced.
2 plies.
On a bright winter's morning, July the 22nd, 1978, Jeff Baker and his crew take out the big Bandicoot for its first full-scale sea trial. The forecast is for light to moderate west to northwest winds and smooth seas. Most of what's wrong will probably show up today. The first casualties are the centreboards, the unweighted boards this craft carries in place of a keel. They were too big and snapped off. They'll be strengthened and redesigned to only a quarter of the original area. But they hear another sound more threatening and difficult to place. It's the sound of cracking. Something is seriously wrong.
Yes, we're wondering what the noise was. It was up here on this lead. It was up here somewhere. Oh, let's play. No, the cracking noise was the epoxy crack watching down that beam. I think it was probably this beam. Yeah, that epoxy through there could crack and go off with a bang.
By the end of the day, the source of the cracking sounds had become obvious. The main crossbeams had failed in many places, too light for the pressures generated by the mainsley. Despite Jeff Baker's apparent optimism, his big Bandicoot has serious flaws.
We've got to replace the whole of this bottom beam with a slightly heavier section and put gussets in the corner between the vertical struts and these diagonal struts, and a bigger prop underneath the mast. That's about all. It's easy to say, but it's a lot to do.
It takes 2 weeks of intensive work to remake and reinforce a new and stronger main beam. The failures have been at the welded joints. These weak spots have to be strengthened.
Yeah, went up 1/8 of an inch.
That's right, Neil. Take his finishing time on the mast, not on the bow of the boat. Over.
It's November the 13th, 1978. Friday the 13th.
He's well on his way, Neil, but he's not going as fast as he should by a little bit from here. Over.
The time lost on repairing the weaknesses has cost the crew valuable time in sailing practice and in fine-tuning other areas of the boat. But the half-kilometre courses have been laid out along the enclosed and ocean sides of the Palm Beach sandspit. Jeff Baker has called out his crew and alerted the timekeepers.
The breeze is leading him now by the look of things. He's slowed up considerably. Over.
On the first headland masks the wind.
Yeah, just stand by and we'll give you our time, Over.
The big catamaran reaches almost 30 knots but falls into a lull. The time is no...
1 minute, .5. 1 minute 5.9. I'll start again. 1 minute, .59. 1 minute 5 seconds, .9. 1 minute. Just stand by. 5 seconds, .9. Seconds. 1 minute, .5. 1 minute, 5 seconds, .9. 1 minute, 5 seconds, .9. And 1 minute, 5 seconds, .76. Over.
She'll need to halve her time over the course to take the world record.
He's coming up now. He's really lifting. He's got one hull well out of the water. That's the first time he's lifted the hull that I've seen. I'll repeat your time, 59.4 and 1 minute precise. Over.
After several runs, they're about to move to the seaward leg. But there is time for one last run on the inside course.
This time going south, over.
Must have been 30 knots, around about 30 knots, I would say. Something like that. But the main cross member just failed completely.
Oh, we'll wait till the winter time.
But we had the hull out of the water. We were flying a hull. Did you see us fly the hull? And, main cross member's not strong enough, obviously. That's the way it's meant to work, but we obviously got to rethink the main beam structure. That's the luck of the game, though. You know, we're moving into unknown areas, so you can't predict what's going to happen. Now we know, unfortunately.
That disastrous day was to be the end of a chapter in the life of the boat and her crew. The British record seemed more firmly held than ever.
This could be it. There's a lot of spray around.
Most of the record attempt had been filmed. The group decided to view the film before making its final decisions on redesign.
Dennis is right down. He's got his head down.
Ah, where the hell's got to be up?
Someone's eased the truck.
There it goes. There we go. See, it's buried. Picked up.
It hasn't nosedive.
Crash.
There it goes.
Yeah. Bang.
Can you go back?
Meanwhile, under challenge from Australia and America, Crossbow had been taken off the slips in England to smash her previous record. The time to beat now was no longer 27 knots, but 33.8. The game was getting tough.
We'd put the hull down in the water.
There'd be spray going out from underneath the hull.
Yeah.
Almost immediately, almost the same time as the hull hit the water.
Yeah. In a cat, you've got to do the opposite to what you do on normal single hulls.
I wanted to see if I can
If you push it up, it heals. If you pull it away, it comes back in the water.
I want to see if we can go faster and keep the hull up there. But then the puff died. And that was it.
As they viewed the film of their failed challenge, the crew did not know that their leader, Jeff Baker, was suffering from a brain tumour, or that within 2 years he'd be dead. So the decision he was about to make to end his association with the Australian record attempt seemed incomprehensible. Lloyd Northam recalls.
There she goes. Jeff, in his usual methodical ways, which he was extreme, rang up everybody and said we're having a Bandicoot meeting to discuss the future of it, which was nothing unusual because he organised a lot of meetings like this, either working bees or which way are we going, which direction, and we all arrived down the yacht club, and it was a bit of a bombshell to myself. I didn't hear the background stories that normally go on. It was, he put the writing on the wall sort of thing and said, listen guys, I want out, I want to play with my house or build my house or devote more time to the boat or the family or whatever. And he said, I can't see it doing what we started off to do. This is the end, you know. We'd gone so far and so close. Why give up at this stage? But Jeff was, either he knew at that stage, knew more than we knew, or had other reasons, but looking back, he may have been the smarter one of the two of the group and said, stop. But myself, I felt, no, we've got to give it a bit more try than we have. Got to give it a bit more effort, and I was all for going on.
And the Greek Bandicoot does go on. The syndicate is reformed with 3 new members, but with limited funds, it takes them several months to build a new joining structure to replace the one that failed. So, in September 1979, she's towed north from Pittwater to a new home, the Tuggerah Lakes. The crew believe there'll be more chance of success in an area with more consistently favourable winds, but the boat is now much heavier. The new cross-member network is made of heavy aluminium bars and struts, bolted together to reduce the weakening effect of welding. The Bandicoot sits much lower in the water. The challengers are confident that they can take the record if the winds are favourable. A month after the journey north, and with little warning, the westerlies struck. Almost 11 months to the day since that Black Friday on Pittwater, the big Bandicoot will face her second test. A rush trip from Sydney has the crew and timekeepers on the course of Tuggerah.
You tell me how to get the car off then. I need a shovel.
But there hasn't been time to clear the amalgamation of marine growth from our hulls. The trial is being prepared in near panic, and the crew clear whatever growth they can.
You need a sandpaper to get that off. Quick dry. What a scraper. Oh. You want to come up? Oh.
The forecast promises wind gusts to 40 knots. The surface of the shallow lake is already discolouring, and there's a bad chop. Time is important now, while the wind is still in the right quarter. Graham Jones, an experienced sailor in 6-metre yachts, is one of the 3 new syndicate members who, with Max Tunbridge and Neil Wilde, have taken over Jeff Baker's equity in the venture. The 3 are now the major financial supporters of the Australian Challenge.
No idea.
Hey, the batten's on a runner.
From the hell, mate.
The wind continues to build. The boat pulls hard at anchor. Graham Jones must unbolt the mooring line. The new challenge has become a local event. Engineers from the Wyong Shire Council have laid out a complicated star-shaped course on the lake with a number of entry and exit channels. Each run is marked by buoys. There'll be 2 timekeepers at the beginning and end of each run, communicating by radio. The timekeepers have 2 stopwatches. The average of them will be the official time.
On boat 1, standing by. Coming. 3, 2, 1. Now.
The wind is in the northwest quarter, so the Bandicoot's first run will be north to south, the second southwest to northeast. She'll make as many runs as she can while the wind holds.
Time boat 1, 56.26 and 56.37.
Although the new world record is 33.8 knots, the British have sailed an unofficial speed of 34.4. For the Australians, the job has become even harder.
Coming. 3, 2,
wind is holding, but its gusts make the day far from ideal. Some gusts are driving the boat towards 30 knots, but the cross member is clipping the top of the waves, slowing the boat and dumping water into the cockpit. They reached 27 knots in the last run, but the attempt is called off. They have failed again, and further weaknesses have shown up in the boat itself. The upper section of the rigging needs extensive repair. Warren Anderson.
Oh, we thought all the load would go onto these three stays, and the diamonds on the mast would only take light load. In fact, what's happened is that the load's going onto this one, which is the cap shroud, and the top of the mast falling over, and all the load's going onto the diamonds. They're too light, really, and it's pulled the fitting out of the mast. You know, we've been unlucky getting the wind. It's been gusting when we've been off the course. When we get on the course, it drops. But that last run, when we had the trouble, you know, it's going quite fast now.
During the next weeks, repairs are carried out on the rigging and mast, and the new crossmember is raised by 12 inches to clear the wave tops. But the work is completed too late. The winds are finished for 1979. In 1980, they will never come. It is the end of the road for the big Bandicoot challenge. Graham Jones.
We kept on reinforcing pieces but breaking other bits on the boat from the extra wind strengths and the extra pressures we're putting on the different points. So it was a vicious circle. We kept on fixing bits, getting them stronger, but there was always something else that wasn't designed to be out there in that sort of wind strength.
Meanwhile, at Portland Harbour in England, the leader of the British syndicate, Timothy Coleman, was determined that his lead would remain unassailable. He relaunched Crossbow 2 and on November the 17th, 1980, again broke his own world record by sailing 36 knots. Despite the British lead, the Australians will decide to try again in another boat. Peter Joubert is convinced that his hull design is capable of victory.
I feel that my hull designs were absolutely in the right direction. I think we could have broken the record with the hull shape being of lower resistance than the type that have the record at the moment, which are round bilged. But I thought if I made it strong enough so that it had no chance of failing, the boat would be so heavy it would have no chance of breaking the record. So I deliberately adopted a design philosophy of making it as light as I thought I could dare, and I'd gone beyond the point where it was strong enough. So it failed, and then I thought, well, it's got to be strengthened. And that proved to be difficult. I was hoping we could have used the exotic fibres, the carbon fibres and the boron fibres that they use in the Royal Australian Air Force fighter fleet that has been strengthened from cracks, fatigue cracks, over the years. But we weren't able to afford that particular technology. So that was a disappointment.
But why have two syndicates and 3 years of work brought only failure?
The whole thing failed at that point, or the venture failed, because we didn't have enough money to do the job in a proper high-tech engineering manner.
But what do you do with an unsuccessful challenger? There's no room in the museums for a little-known failure. After months at a mooring, serving only as a perch for roosting birds, the boat was sold to Andrew Cann and Chris Townend for $6,000. For a while they sailed around Tuggerah Lake, faster perhaps than the average pleasure boat. But they had a plan to radically rearrange their new boat. She was removed from the lake and pulled apart. The hulls were reversed, so the fittings for the rigging were on the outside, leaving room inside for a cabin between the hulls. The big Bandicoot was starting a second career as a luxury cruising catamaran. Andrew Cann says he's going to cruise on the Great Barrier Reef and then sail across the top of Australia to be a spectator at the Australian Defence of the Americas Cup in Perth.
This is the front cabin. It's got a double bunk situated there. It's pretty rough at this stage. It's got to be lined with probably a timber or some sort of a carpet idea. There's 4 of these cabins. 2 are situated on the forward end and 2 are situated in the aft section there. We also have accommodation for probably another 6 or 8 people in the saloon area, wherever they can find room to bunk down. This part here is the galley area. Got a double sink, fridge and a stove. Moving over this side here, we have a dining room table with fixed seating. We have the living area to relax in, couches and seats and probably some bookshelves and things like that. We pulled the superstructure apart and also recut the aluminium beams into a different section and assembled the whole structure from there. The front section will have a big trampoline area to sunbake and probably relax on. We're going to put the motors in the front section of the boat. The hydraulic system that's going to be incorporated in it will drive the outboard motor legs with the advantage of being able to raise and lower the outdrives when you get into shallow water, or if you don't want to use outboard motors or power.
But what of the men who spent so much on a dream that failed? How will they react to the conversion of their Challenger into a pleasure craft? Finally, they come to see what is happening to the boat which has consumed so much of their lives for so long.
I'd rather do that once, of course.
Not wrong.
Oh, you got to get the hose down.
I'm going to give you a hosing down. It's free water.
How you going?
Good. Yourself?
Really good. Yeah, now we've got to turn the building now. We'll let me shoot if you want for some reason.
How are you, Graham? We know you.
Fine, yeah.
How are you?
Good. Special service there, dear.
Thank you.
Is that narrower?
Narrower, is it?
Yeah.
Be. Got more light.
Bit too wide.
For her new life as a pleasure craft, the big Bandicoot is a little smaller. The hulls are a metre closer together to allow her to enter the narrow coastal inlets of Australia's eastern seaboard.
So big. It's like last time we left, isn't it?
And where frantic crewmen once tried to make this the fastest sailing boat in the world, holiday makers will sunbake and relax.
The way it should have been in the first place. It was designed for this. That should be good with the boat, isn't it? And it'll be a good boat.
We're going to run 2 twin forestays on it, so we have a good amount of sail on it for that purpose.
You're going to stay with a 3/4 rig or go to a masthead rig with it?
No, we'll keep it a 3/4 rig.
We had trouble keeping the forestay tight, didn't we? Remember how it used to sag off? Do you reckon I'll still have that problem?
Going cruising, I think.
Yeah, it's a cruising boat, not a rig.
Yeah, no, but on we had a saggy problem.
He's done a hot job with it, hasn't he?
I think we started off about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, didn't we? Or 3 o'clock in the afternoon?
Yeah, something like that.
Went from
For both the former owner and the new owner, this is a memorable meeting. Max Tunbridge was as desperate to sell as Andrew Cann was to buy.
Yeah, all these bundles of notes.
Yeah.
Their eyes went. Probably never saw so much money in their life.
Graham and I were out in the veranda saying, now it's beautiful. It is. It's really good.
And that was the contract you signed? After all that?
Oh, dear. Yeah, written. I think it's pretty happy all the way around. Everybody's pretty happy with it, I think. I think it's a good thing that it's being used for something. That's what I reckon. No, it was just destined to stay there as far as we were concerned, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's just getting too far away to do anything with, and it wasn't going to break the record without a lot more input, and we just didn't have the time to do it.
The dreams that this boat would beat the world have been abandoned now, but the big catamaran, which has been at the centre of so many disappointed hopes, has found at last how to be a success.